There we go. Yay!
Hey,
We finally got it to work.
that's good. That's always a good thing.
That's right. How are you doing?
Good.
Great. Well, usually it's me and Chris talking a lot, so I'm excited to have someone else. You're our first
I
guest.
don't know. I hope so.
Yeah.
You can tell me that after it's over.
Well, how's your day going?
Good. It's been full. I met with Chris,
Great.
PT Chris
That's
today,
awesome.
and he actually stayed up here for like an hour and a half. It was really good. So
That's awesome. Well,
yeah.
so what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask you a few questions, but I wanted to start because now we're live. I was going to talk a little bit about what we've covering for Heart Health Month, and then kind of incorporate exercise into that because what an important piece.
Yeah.
Chris and I have been talking a lot about. Nutrition and heart health, especially focusing on antioxidants, explaining what they
Okay.
are. Like we always hear about antioxidants, but talking about how antioxidants are the phytochemicals in fruits and vegetables, and mostly plant-based foods, and how important they are for reducing oxidation, which is a kind of a fancy term for damage in our body that's caused from natural processes. So antioxidants we talked about, fiber we talked about. But yeah, now exercise. So one of the things we talk a lot about, Tonya, is not only the science behind things, but also what we can do at home. So that's something that I'll be really curious about. But tell me a
Yeah.
little bit more about, talk a little bit more about your background. You're a personal trainer, used to be a speech therapist. How did you get into opening a gym and everything?
Sure, I'd love to. So, yes, I went to college to become a speech therapist and very quickly got into the management side of healthcare and was the director of rehab facilities and that sort of thing, and did that for several years. And I'm a mom of four kiddos who are pretty important to me. And I had three of those kiddos early on, and then surprise number four came on a little bit later, and I wanted to have a little bit more freedom to have her with me throughout the day. And I love physical activity. I've been a runner since college. I played college volleyball. Love health and all things exercise. And my younger sister, actually owns a gym in Jonesboro. And so I've always kind of been interested in bringing a gym like that here to Maumelle. And so I just decided to take my knowledge of rehab, and I kind of call this prehab, and have open a gym here where I could make a difference in the lives of people before they got to the place where they needed the rehab because
Right.
of health issues, things like that. And so that's really what I decided to do was open the gym. I can bring my little girl with me through the day, have more freedom and flexibility with that. Plus, not so much working on the end of after the health issues have already happened,
Yeah.
but kind of catching them on the front end and making a difference in that regard. So,
I love that. And that's definitely what I like to focus on. And, Dr. Chris Brown, we're in the prevention game for sure.
yeah,
I've heard it said before, like, we spend our money somewhere. Are we spending it on preventing illness, or are we spending it after we get the illness on,
yeah,
like you said, rehab or medications or procedures?
yeah,
And I mean, that's a hard topic, right? We're usually focused on the here and now. It's hard. It's hard to be motivated. So I've been going to BareFit and loved it for the last 6 months. And so it's helped me stay more motivated because I go with my wife, and trainers are fantastic. There's some, like, everything's there: spin class, yoga, weights. Like, I just have to show up and it works out.
yeah.
But what would you say, as you've been working in this field for a while now, give us a tip for motivation? How can we stay motivated so that way we're Because we do want to prevent things, but it's hard to do that. So what do you think
Yeah.
about motivation?
Yeah, that's a good question. Um, I just say there's a lot of things that we have to do even when we don't feel motivated. So keeping the end goal in mind. So establishing from the get go, what is my end goal? Is it, do I need to lose some weight? Do I need to have a healthier diet? Do I want to be able to get in the floor with grandkids? Do I want to be able to ride my bicycle 100 miles? I mean, everybody's end goal is different. But you have to establish that end goal, and then that goal you have to put it in front of you. I like to write things down and keep it, in front of me. But whatever that is that works for you, reminding yourself of that end goal, because the motivation is not always going to be there, and there's a lot of discipline. As you know, in nutrition, in health, in working out, that we have to do even when we don't feel motivated. And I think reminding yourself of what you want that end goal to look like, or what you don't want it to look like, what you don't want to be like, sometimes motivates you to show up. And then, like you said, when you do show up and you have trainers there or friends there or whatever, then you're like, oh, I'm so glad I came,
Yes. That's such a good reminder. If we don't have that end goal in mind, then it's so much harder to stay motivated. And reminding ourselves, okay, this is why I'm doing it. So that way we don't give up when it's really hard. I love that.
Right.
End goal in mind.
I would agree. Yeah. And then just giving yourself grace to not think you've blown it when you don't show up, or when you aren't perfect that day. I mean, who's perfect anyway? But just do it again tomorrow and show up tomorrow and do better tomorrow. I'm not going to wait a month because I had a bad day. Tomorrow I'm going to start over and make it better. So
I was just thinking about that because it's almost March 1st, and a lot of us set goals January 1st. And Chris and I were talking about how to set yourselves up this year for, goals, and not to set them up to where you're just failing. Like you said, of not giving yourself grace and that kind of thing. But I was just thinking March 1st is right around. So I was thinking, okay, how many people set those January 1st goals and have given up by now? And what can we do differently? So Tonya, when you see people that you've noticed, maybe they started at the gym January 1st, or they set goals, and the people that are showing up even now, what are the common factors? Do you see accountability? Do you see any commonalities of those people that stick with it?
I do. I think it's important to allow yourself to be uncomfortable and, get to know someone else. If you're not coming with someone, then putting yourself out there and making sure you meet someone that's in the gym or in the class or whatever, finding that niche for you, what it is you like. That's the thing. If you start something and you don't like it, you're probably not going to keep going. So keep trying a few different things until you find what you do like and what is your thing. If you don't love yoga, don't keep showing up to yoga class. Just try spin or a strength class or something different, so that you find something you do like. Find someone there that you can talk to and say, hey, if I don't show up, will you text me and ask me? Give them permission to speak into your life and to keep you accountable.
That's good. So finding someone is a good technique for increasing the accountability. Like I said, I'm really lucky because my wife and I have made this priority. We sifted through our priorities and what we're spending money on, et cetera, and realized, look, we've got to bump this up because we are not consistent with physical activity, and we feel so much better when we're active. And we need to do all of these things, especially a holistic set of activities of strength plus cardio plus stretching. We need all of that.
Yes.
So for us, it was definitely setting priority, and I'm lucky because I've got that accountability. But it sounds like getting some accountability is good, and finding what you like to do and branching out. So if you've only ever done one thing but it's not working, being curious to try something else to see if you like it.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
which I definitely have been trying things. I've never done bar. I've never done bar before, and now I love it.
Yeah.
Spin class, love spin class. That's my favorite class.
Yeah.
So I definitely have tried things, and it's paid off for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. That's great. I love it. A
I've
lot of
also-
people use that as your excuse. I'm not a runner, or I'm not a heavy lifter. Well, then find what you are, because there's so many options out there. Just eliminate those excuses by finding something that you do like. And it might surprise you if you try, something. And I would say, all exercise is great. All gyms are great, but the benefit of having a smaller environment where you feel known helps you to be more comfortable, I would think, trying different things or having familiar faces and things like that. If you're starting out and trying something new and not comfortable just walking into a big open gym and not knowing where to start. So,
yeah, that's huge. I can't tell you how many times I've been in gyms and had no idea how to use the equipment and feeling too embarrassed to ask, or there's no one to ask. So and something along those lines I was going to ask is the individual personal training that you and some of the personal trainers offer. Tell me more about that. Who would be a good candidate for that one-on-one personal training? What are the extra benefits you've seen? What do you do during sessions? What does it look like?
Okay. Yep. So I would say, really, if you've not been in exercise in a while or ever, it's always great to start with a personal trainer, because they're going to be able to teach you form. You want to prevent injury. If you're starting any type of exercise routine, if you've not been already doing something, because the last thing that you want is to hurt yourself and have to sit out after you've already motivated yourself. Okay, I'm starting this, and then you hurt yourself and have to stop. That sets you back, and a lot of times knocks you out of the game. So you want to start slow. You don't want to just go all out all at once, but having someone talk you through that, and being able to say, oh, let's not do this because you might hurt yourself. A personal trainer is able to ask you your medical history, different things about yourself, any type of things that you may have going on that may interact with, what your exercise is. That way, so prevent injury. I would say, if you're not a self-motivated person and you just need someone to tell you what to do and let you do it, personal training is great for you, because that's what we're going to do. Also, if you're someone who stops when it gets hard, and you know that about yourself, because a personal trainer is they're going to push you further than you're going to want to push yourself if you have that type of personality, as well as be able to push you even further than you thought you could do on your own, or hand you that heavier dumbbell or something like that, where you would not grab for that on your own. And so personal training, I would say, it can be something that you just do for a little while and then transition into classes or into just working out on your own. Or, depending on what you're looking for, just long term, you just like to have a trainer there to give you a prescription of what to do and what to follow and feedback. But I always think personal training is a good idea, at least for our first few sessions, to give you feedback, talk to you, ask you about your medical history, your nutrition, your life, what your goals are before you start, so that you have somebody else too, like we said earlier, that can remind you, remember what you said your goal was, or remember you started at this point, and look now, don't get discouraged, you have made some improvements. A lot of that, if you're doing that on your own, you may give up and quit, or not get the success that you would want, because we are really hard on ourselves, or don't push ourselves as much in some situations. So
that's awesome. So injury prone individuals that know they need that extra accountability, want to learn the movements, want to push themselves, should be thinking about doing at least a few one-on-one sessions.
Yeah, awesome. I would agree with that. Yeah.
Something too that on the topic of prevention versus kind of a reactive approach to healthcare is how much money we can end up having to spend on medications and surgeries. Some of that is absolutely necessary, but some things, one in particular, like bariatric surgery, often costs $15,000 to $20,000. And I just think, what could you do with $20,000 for a personal trainer, dietitian, exercise? Like that would fund your fitness. So, or so that's one way to think about it, is I don't want to spend all this money on diabetes medications or surgeries, et cetera. What can I be spending on it now? But also, what we just waste money on nowadays, right?
True.
Is too much Starbucks, too much this, too much that. I don't know. That's just a reflection of, man, spend your money where it's going to count. And exercise is an undisputed way, right? And there's a lot of controversy with different, dietary things or supplements, but there's no dispute that you need to get in and exercise. One kind of myth that comes up a lot from people and patients is, I don't want to, because I'm encouraging them to do strength training. Sometimes they walk and they might stretch, but I'm saying you need to do strength training for your health. And they'll tell me, well, I don't want to get jacked. I don't want to get ripped. What do you think about that question, and how can we navigate that?
Yeah. Yes, you do hear that quite sometime. And a lot of that's just misinformation. And, we hear things and we kind of repeat things that we've heard in the past. And I would agree, muscle, to build muscle is most important because it trickles into every other area of your life functionally. Not only it's going to help you, burn more calories throughout the day to maintain your muscle mass, but also picking up your kids, opening and shutting the car door, have heavy luggage. There's so many things that building muscle mass is going to help you throughout all day long, various functional things to do. And so important to get in that muscle and strength building. Cardio and nutrition absolutely are important. But also building muscle. As far as, I don't want to get jacked and that sort of thing. I do hear that. And, it's not just going to happen.
Right. That's what I tell people.
Like, you have to be that on a mission to get jacked. And eating certain amount of calories per day, certain types of food, taking different supplementation, lifting very heavy weights, in a different manner than you would just for general overall muscle building. There's different prescriptions of exercise for different outcomes. And so you're not just going to get jacked as a byproduct of going to the gym, unless that is what your end goal is. And then of course you will. But, you will build muscle. Your body shape will change. Say if you're just running, I did that for years and years. I was just a runner. I didn't do much muscle building, and my body shape does look completely different now that I do lift. You are going to look different, and that does take some adjustment to get used to. But again, you've got to think in your mind, what is your end goal? If you want strong body, be able to do all of the functional things, your bone density, all of the things, then be okay with knowing I'm doing this because I know that it's good for me. Just like I'm eating this because I know it's good for me. It might not be what I went to grab or I wanted to grab, but I'm grabbing it because I know the putting in my body is good for me. So
love that. That's exactly what I was looking for. So now you've heard it, not just from me, but a personal trainer who knows what she's talking about. You're not going to accidentally get jacked. You want to do strength training because of all of the benefits. Like you said, you want to be able to function. It's functionality. You want to be able to, if you have kids, play with your kids. And like you said, get up out of a chair without too much effort, like just all the things.
Injury. I mean, a lot of medicine, a lot of things are, knee replacement, hip replacement, shoulder replacements, back, all of the back pain, back injections. And some of this stuff is needed. I mean, I'm thankful for medicine when it's needed, but a lot of it, strengthening your overall physique and your body and keeping yourself strong will prevent so many different types of injuries or types of things that you may have to, like we said, spend thousands of dollars trying to fix because we didn't keep ourselves strong and healthy. So
yeah, that's really, really good. We could go on and on and on. I didn't even think about that too. All the hip and knee replacements that we see constantly, the injections, and people just managing pain.
right.
And that chronic pain can be managed or somewhat prevented by strengthening yourself, improving all of these different things. And one that I've been told that has been really helpful for me is strengthening your core can take some pressure off your low back. And I've got a back pillow right here on my chair because I sit a lot, unfortunately. And it helps keep my posture up because otherwise my tendency is to do this.
Yes.
But I've noticed with a stronger core, it takes a little pressure off my lower back and a better posture.
Yes. Yes, for females, we birth babies, we carry a lot of tension and things through our hip area. And so, if your hips are tight or weak and they're either anteriorly rotated or posteriorly rotated or whatever, that pulls on your back muscle. So in women, we'll see a lot of pain between your scapula or your low back pain, but it's stemming from weak hips or tight hips that just need strengthened and stretched and that sort of thing. So, I've got clients that come in that are getting injections in their back for pain or something. And then 6 weeks later, we strengthen, do lots of hip strengthening and stretching, and they're amazed that now their back pain has gone away. So you might be putting a Band-Aid on something that we can actually get to the root of. And usually it's someplace else in your body than what you're putting the Band-Aid on, and we fix that and both things are better. So
that's great. And you had mentioned too, now working with a physical therapist, and I just see them all just like going together. It's if you're completing physical therapy and then you're discharged and you want to prevent the problem, getting into somewhere where you can regularly exercise and work with trained professionals, probably that one-on-one session to where they're keeping an eye on your movements, making sure you're not re-injuring something. I mean, that just sounds like a no-brainer and a great way to prevent another injury.
Correct. And then a lot of us, we know when something's outside of our realm and are going to tell you, for me, I can give you some nutrition, but if you need extensive or you have a specific problem, I'm going to refer to you, Nathan, for them to help them. And same thing, if I see you've got some sort of knee problem that goes beyond just the strengthening, then I'm going to refer to physical therapy because that's outside of my realm of expertise. And so it all just flows together back and forth to help the individual become as strong and as healthy as they can be. And it all kind of just intertwine. So.
Yep. It's so interesting. We've been talking about Heart Month all month. And so, one of the things we've been talking about is blood pressure. Our blood pressure goals out there usually center around a very narrow range of nutrition advice. And people completely forget about potassium. So I've touched a lot about fruits and vegetables and things and getting more potassium. We've talked about staying properly hydrated. We've talked about stress and sleep So sleep apnea, for instance, I mentioned how it can raise the risk of heart failure. Sleep apnea raises the risk of heart failure by 140%. Wow. Crazy. So sleep is huge, but exercise is the other piece of that. Exercise helps you sleep better, can reduce stress. It's good for our heart. It's good for our cardiovascular system. So maybe touch briefly on if someone, it's American Heart Month and someone is wanting to improve things, like how would you encourage them that exercise is good for the cardiovascular system?
I wore the red for Heart Month, so just representing here, as I knew we were talking about heart health. And so, just as you said, think of it as a table, and the pillars, the legs of that table are the pillars that you mentioned, our nutrition, exercise, sleep, and so any of our pillars that if you take one out, that table, it might stand-ish, but if you put a little bit of weight on it, it's going to fall. And so you want all of your pillars strong so that your life is on a solid foundation. And so, stress and, all of us have something we're going through, either, stressful situation, or exercise may be off, or, so the stronger that you keep those areas when something goes on in your life, it's not just going to completely be a train wreck, because you've been strengthening, you've been meditating and keeping your spirit strong. You've been getting your good sleep. You have tried to manage your stress and exercise, because there are times that, even right now for me, I don't get a lot of sleep. And so I know that that's not a strong area for me. So I've got to make sure that my other areas are strong to kind of help cover and rest when I can. So as far as cardiovascular, oh my goodness, your heart is a muscle. It is a muscle. So anytime you work your heart, you're doing reps on a muscle. And so if you're not doing anything to work, to exercise, then your heart is atrophy, just like your bicep or anything else in your body. And so the more you can work it, the stronger it's going to be. The stronger your recovery is going to be if an event were to happen and you were going to need some sort of procedure or something like that. All the research shows blood pressure is lowered with exercise. We know that, how important that is. But I feel like people would be amazed if you feel like you've completely blown it, you're completely out of shape, you're on blood pressure medicine and, that sort of thing. Just start somewhere. Like you don't have to, do 30 minutes 4 times a week. Do 10 minutes 4 times a week. Start somewhere. Even if it's in seated position, doing leg raises and arms with a band. Anything that you can do is going to work your heart just like a muscle, strengthen it, and you're going to be able to build on that foundation. And I think, this whole worldwide epidemic of heart health would be so greatly helped if we would just have more exercise, and people would just not become so overwhelmed with they've blown it and they just give up and start somewhere.
Yeah. And something that I think is so important for people is not to wait. So I'm sure you've encountered the question is, well, I'm going to wait to exercise once I have energy, because it takes a lot of energy to exercise. I just don't feel like it. So why would we not wait until we have energy? Why would we go ahead and just start the exercise first?
That's really good. Because just like we talked about with motivation, energy is tangible, but energy also is a feeling. Like, do I have the energy to do this? Really what we're saying is I don't feel like it, because your body does have energy, because just to burn fat, your body creates energy. Calories is a unit of energy. So our body was made to produce energy. That's how we were created. So if I say I have no energy, well, I have 125 pounds of energy. I'm not being very truthful with myself. Now, do I feel like energy? No. But once I start moving, my body's going to burn and make energy to be able to do the things that I'm trying to do, because that's how I was created. So I would say if you wait, you're just if I'm honest, it's just an excuse. I mean, it's just a way for you to delay doing the inevitable. And if you'll just start somewhere, that feeling of having energy to do it will come. Or at least if it doesn't, when you're done, you'll feel thankful and glad and better that you did it, because of all the serotonin and dopamine and things that are going to be produced from just moving your body.
Yeah. That's so good. I've kind of given people an analogy before about you have to put in a deposit if you're going to make a withdrawal with energy. And that making a deposit, like you said, when we don't feel like it, can be hard to overcome. But in order to reap the benefits of long-term energy and better health, you have to make a deposit, even if it's a small step. And but until you do that, you're not going to get a lot of energy. And people are turning to certain things that are kind of tricking them into thinking they have energy, but it's short-lived. So whether that's a lot of sugar, a lot of like uber high dose of caffeine, it's what we really need to be thinking about is that foundation, like you said, exercise, sleep, nutrition, or some foundational pieces. Without those, our body is not functioning properly.
Right.
And we've gotta put in the deposit before we can get that withdrawal. Yeah. It all goes hand in hand. It's so good.
It does. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I would agree. I think we just pull from too many things that is fake energy or that's temporary. And then it's just a cycle that we're caught in. And at some point, you just have to make a decision. I'm going to break this cycle and just do it. And yeah, you're right. It's that, it is very difficult to overcome. I'm not saying it's not a hard hurdle to overcome, but it's also very difficult to recover from something very terrible too. So you just kind of have to pick your hard. We've all heard that. Choose your hard. And all of the things combined, keeping the end goal in mind, what you do want, what you don't want, thinking of the people that are in your life that are important to you and doing it. If not for you, then do it for someone that's very important to you. Because, when you're unhealthy, it affects everyone around you. It doesn't just affect you. And so, like I said, if you can't do it for yourself because you're not in that place, then choose someone that you do love enough to do it for and do it for them. Pretty soon, you're going to start doing it for yourself. You just got to find whatever it is that motivates you and start.
Yeah. Well, that's a really good summary too of kind of what we're hitting on. I feel that people need to join like a community of some sort for their health goals, and whatever that looks like for them. Because if you try to do things alone, it's so much harder. So BareFit. So if you're in the Central Arkansas, especially Maumelle area, so there's a 10 classes for $10, kind of intro that people could try. Talk a little bit about that, because that's the easiest decision to make is go out there and do that.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, we want to allow you to be able to come and find out what is the fit for you. So for $10, you can try as many classes as you want in your first 10 days to find out what fits in your schedule, what type of classes you like, that sort of thing. There's no other commitment with that. So if you don't like it, there's no contract or anything like that. So that's a great place to start. 10 for 10 as far as the classes go. As far as personal training goes, you just reach out and you can have an initial assessment with a personal trainer, ask all the questions and that sort of thing. And again, either you can decide from there to schedule some sessions or no, this is not for me. But, either way, you want to get in and see what is going to be a good fit and what direction you want to go so that you don't talk yourself out of it.
Yeah. I think that's a great option for people. And it's just, BareFit is awesome. Just a wonderful community. You've got stuff on Facebook. So everyone watching, follow them and definitely keep an eye out for information. So thank you so much, Tonya, for coming on. A lot of fun. We're definitely going to have you on again because it's too much fun.
And, I would love to. Never had much trouble talking, so I love to come on anytime.
Me and Chris, we ramble and go into rabbit trails about everything because there's just so much to talk about. But I think this month in particular is so important. Like I've been, I just wrote a blog. I made some posts about how 1 in 3 Americans die of cardiovascular disease. So either ourselves or a family member. I mean, you don't have to look very far for someone that needs to know this information. And we need to be thinking about this now and don't wait. And what I'm hearing is don't wait to exercise until you feel like it. Start now and start wherever you can. Don't wait until you feel like you could be the perfect athlete or something like that. Just start where you're at and you're going to make some improvements so that way the opposite doesn't happen where you are going downhill and decline. And even if you feel like you've failed or something like that, you haven't. There's always time to improve. And so, yeah, that's very, very encouraging. I really enjoyed this live. So
good. I did too. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Well, I'll see you soon, and
Okay.
you have a great rest of your week.
Okay. You too. Thanks, Nathan.